Medical ethics, I think, is as old as human beings themselves. And somewhere down the line, which has not happened with, I don't think, any other profession, where ethics has got related to the profession. We have code of conduct, we have lot many other things, we have rules, penalties, disciplinary proceedings, inquiry officers and the like. But ethics as such as a part of the profession, I don't think I've read in any profession. Whether it's management, technology, policing, governance, public administration, I don't think I've read so far. Whatever little ethics I read is a part of philosophy, as a part of my general reading, just to connect to a couple of things which emanated out of sociological thought. So medieval and early modern period, we had Ishaq bin Ali. So his Code of Physician is one of the first modern writings on medical ethics. And 18th, 9th century, we have Thomas Percival, who was a doctor and an author. And on his thoughts, we have in 1803, we have medical ethics and medical jurisprudence. That is when this term was coined and remains in currency today. And to best of my understanding and understanding of all of you, would remain in currency, I think, for all times to come. And in 1847, we have the first Code of Ethics. Ethics is something which is above the ordinary, it is extraordinary, and every medical practitioner is an extraordinary person in his own right. Maintain the extraordinary, you will find very easy to do extraordinary things. If by your mindset, by your attitude, you feel not very comfortable in doing the ordinary, you will do extraordinary very well. So there are common framework. All of you are familiar with whatever the MCI has to say, whatever the colleges have to say, whatever the organizations have to say. But just behind that, what we called in computer language, the back-end process. So this is the back-end process. In the back-end process are the four cardinal principles of biomedical ethics. And everything emanating out of it goes as your rules, goes as your conduct, goes as a more general usage of ethics. These are the ethical values. And these ethical values are respect for autonomy, self-determination. I am a patient. I will decide as to what should be done with me. There's a different story altogether, whether I have the capability to understand or not to understand, but somewhere at the back of the mind, I think the people who came up with this sort of a philosophy, they thought whether you are educated, uneducated, whatever it might be, but your life's experience will teach you what is good for you and what is bad for you. Beneficence. The practitioner should act in the best interest of the patient. Non-maleficence. First, do no harm. But all these principles, they are not exclusive of each other. They work in conjunction of each other. And as the human system operates, the value systems also operate in a similar manner. Justice concerns the distribution of scarce health resources and the decision who gets what treatment. Now, in the Indian scenario, if we have 50 very good hospitals, how far, I would like to know, we are following this principle. As with right to education, if you want to follow any principle which has some concept of justice in right to life as enshrined in Article 21 of the Indian Constitution, and all of us love it like mad because that's the only thing which you need, but for that everything will come. So, if we feel that right to life is so important, it is an inalienable right. This right nobody even thinks about. I think it's mine. But if the medical services being provided in this country, I am for sure I know I will not get the best of the medical services, or leave aside best of the medical services, the medical services commensurate to the medical problem in which I have landed. And it is not because of my making. So if the state is not in a position, if the society is not in a position to provide you that level of medical services which is not commensurate to the health hazard which you are facing, I think there is something somewhere which has gone amiss. There is something which is not systemic in nature. There is something which is both monopolistic, which is manipulative in nature, and which goes against the basic principles of human existence. It is a thought, you can carry it home, you can think about it, you can analyze, reflect, use it, mince it, whichever manner. But it is there. There is no denying that fact. Respect for persons and truthfulness and honesty. So these are the 6 values out of which emanates nearly anything and everything which is documented, coded as a fact in medical ethics. And this has been so for lot many years, hundreds of years, thousands of years, and I presume will remain so for all times to come. As in management, there are 2 types of values. One is known as the core value, the other is known as the dynamic value. The core values don't change. Professional competence is a core value. Communication is a core value. Clarity of thought is a core value. Systemic thinking is a core value. Integral vision is a core value. Whether you are running a small cab company or you are running the biggest enterprise on the face of this earth, which today is Apple, I think core values remain the same. The dynamic values change with society, circumstances, situations, with economic development, with academic development, and so many things. Core values can never change. What we were talking about are the core values. Now what we come to is outcomes that are important to patient. For me, autonomy is important. The doctor might feel that I know everything, and over I think last couple of hundreds of years, there has been a paternalistic approach by the medical practitioners. And more so in India, where the customer in a shop or a patient in a hospital and so many such relationship and a clerk and a citizen. So at all these places, we feel that we are we hold all wisdom and there is nobody else who has that wisdom. Unfortunately, the man who is front of me, I think he has all the wisdom and I don't. But we are not ready to accept that. So this paternalistic thinking, it comes in collusion with autonomy. A patient is an illiterate patient, he's been from a village, he's never seen anything, he has not even heard the disease which he is afflicted of. You have put in 10 years studying, learning, medical practice. 1 second. Informed consent. And as all of you are aware, I don't think any practitioner can do without informed consent. And if you intend to do, so what the complications you would land in would be something unimaginable in nature. You would have handled thousands of cases, but that one single case will be sufficient enough to do the damage which is unimaginable. So this is beneficence, taking actions that serve the best interest of patients. So having that paternalistic attitude and added to that, if you have beneficence, what will happen to the patient with best of the intentions is very difficult for me to profess, for me to visualize. Because you have decided that I am what they call in Hindi, Ma Baap of this fellow. And added to that, I am in a beneficence mode also. It might also happen that you might reach a stage wherein you are not bothered about his case history, about his circumstances, about his thought process. Because you are all knowing. You know everything. You see the face of a patient. You know what to give. And if at the back of your mind, if there are a couple of other things playing, then absolutely there is no concept of any consultancy anywhere in between. So, what we get into is an assembly line system. Assembly line system is excellent for cars, iPhones, and you know all those things you are aware of, but it doesn't run for human beings. First, do no harm. So at least that part is taken care. But this has its own issues. And if the medical practitioner works only on this principle, devoid of any other principle or a combination or a synergy or a blend of all these principles, where you land up as that might be the person survives in a vegetative state for the rest of his life. And even if it's not vegetative from medical terminology or the medical whatever parameters, but he ends up in a vegetative state. So it works as a double effect with beneficence. Medical ethics is usually regarded as the combined effect of beneficence and non-maleficence. Morphine is one example which is generally quoted as to have both the positive and the negative effects on the same individual who is taking it or who the doctor prescribes, injects, whatever. So on the other hand, autonomy, beneficence and non-maleficence may also overlap. I'll just try to dwell a bit on one of the major medical ethical issues which is plaguing the world. And the best example, the best case is that of Aruna Ramchandra Shanbhag, who was sodomized by a sweeper. She was a nurse in KEM Hospital, Mumbai in 1973. And since then is in a vegetative state. This is the beauty of the whole thing. She doesn't have friends. She doesn't have relatives. 37 years in a vegetative state. And the whole of the hospital management staff, inclusive of the dean, they have given a written affidavit to Supreme Court of India that euthanasia cannot take place on her. And heeded to such strong sentiments of the hospital and the staff, the judgment says that though we allow taking off life support systems, but as far as Aruna Shanbhag is concerned, it will be the dean and staff and the management of KEM Hospital who will decide. Firstly, they have denied that no, we'll never do that. That just in case, if their mind changes, if it hasn't changed in 37 long years, it has become a core value. It is not going to change. But if it does, then there is a High Court of Mumbai which will take care of the request. So as the euthanasia law stands today, as per Article 226 of the Indian Constitution, the High Court has the powers to give instructions, as in the case of constitutional writs, to take off the life support systems. Mature society, capacity and commitment to take care of its invalid ones. It is not in mercy killing. It's not mercy killing which defines a mature society. A mature society is decided by how well the society is able to take care of the invalid ones. Mercy killing is neither medical, nor moral, not legal. It is something in some domain. And even if it is permitted by law, whether in Netherlands or Switzerland or whatever, I don't think that can be the prevailing value, the prevailing norm, or the ethics of any modern society. Confidentiality, and this is not a ladies' gossip anyway, without any comment on the contrary. But what happens is we are not the people who believe in confidentiality. Confidential has been viewed as a relatively non-negotiable tenet in medical practice. Human research issues, doctors who receive income referring patients for medical tests. If Dr. George allows me to divulge some information, CAT scan or whatever diagnostic reference he makes for his patients get 50% discount. And he is not a MNC. So somewhere there is a tacit understanding that a cut goes to the practitioner. Vendor relationships. See, the issues are wide, varied, complex. And the way you impact your lifestyle, the way you impact your family's lifestyle, and the way you impact the patient's fraternity, you are just unaware of. You're not ready to understand what licensing is all about. You're not ready to understand what warranty is all about. You don't want to understand what annual maintenance is all about. If you are not ready to understand informed consent itself, where will the same mind allow you to understand what is licensing of a MRI machine? In United Nations, what we do is the whole history of the machine and with whatever other details which they require, it is written there with the machine itself. I have not seen in any hospital that informed consent is mandatory. Let it be displayed. What is so wrong about it? Train timings are displayed, air timings are displayed, everything is displayed. And there is a clear-cut instruction or guidelines of Medical Council of India to display your fees. But I don't see anywhere. If you are displaying MBBS, PCS, DCF, DEF, GF, everything, that is only 100 rupees, 200 rupees, 500 rupees. And all of us are very familiar with that, so we will understand in no time. There should be very clear-cut manifestations of transparency, very clear-cut manifestation of value in our life and in public life. And that is the only way you can cut across barriers. That is the only way you can cut across people who are there to destroy the moral fabric. So this is what we do. You start with the Declaration of Geneva, and I would not venture out asking any of the medical practitioners if they remember the whole of the Declaration of Geneva, because yesterday I was told, don't try it, it would be embarrassing. So I will not do that. Nonetheless, this is what the Indian Medical Council does. Professional misconduct, all of us are aware of. See the damage which you do to the society by taking 30 rupees. And I know 30 rupees was a rate for a medical certificate 10 years back or 15 years back when I was dealing with my constables and sub-inspectors those days. Now it would have risen anyway. And the inflation is the order of the day. Now that fellow doesn't work for 1 month. Dichotomy of fee splitting we have talked about, covering assisting someone who has no medical qualification. I just like to say one point at this venture is that you land in a court of law, you land with any other disciplinary agency, you think about defending yourself. But day in and day out, as it happens in any other organization, you would be facing these issues in the hospital itself, in your teaching facility itself. But how many disciplinary cases do you initiate? The nobility of the profession is directly proportional to the number of erring people you catch on a regular basis, which is away from the normal legal minefield as you think of, and set them right. Advertising is another thing which is, what do you say? It is a curse to the medical fraternity. And as the day passes by, there seems to be a very little difference in Hindustan Liver and the hospitals we run, without commenting on the nature of medical services they provide. I don't believe in a concept of this or this. It can be this and this. Nonetheless, that part which goes with this is wrong. There is no denying that fact. Corporate hospitals have done a great service to this nation in elevating the level of medical service. But with that, they have brought in a couple of very, very serious ethical issues. So all these things we are aware of. The problem is that most of the things are on paper. It is not being practiced. To the extent what the medical council and what the world wants is you even tell me the convenient timings as per my choice. And the doctor is supposed to provide you the consultation facility or whatever the facility is. So nearly everything is tilted in favor of the patient. Over a period of time, everything has got tilted in favor of either the corporate hospitals or leading practitioners. Small-time practitioners who still have to make their money, who still have to grow up in life, who want to be moneyed, who want to be famous, who want to be so, whatever. So those guys will provide you humane service. So humane service cannot be just because you are in need of money or need of making a name, only then you provide humane service. Humane service has to be provided by every single medical service organization in the country. So this is where we stand. And unfortunately, as in most of the other fields in this country, documentation is something which ails this nation. We don't believe in quality documentation. We don't believe in a continuous documentation. We don't believe in making a story out of the facts which you have created. Whatever Apple did today has become a story in every single home. But whatever we do, whether it is a successful case studies, whether it's something negative which has happened, but we don't believe in the quality of documentation which should be there. And there's a very clear-cut given format by MCI. But if you get into case histories, it becomes extremely difficult to understand as to what this person has undergone. And the biggest curse which the patients face is total incapability to read the prescription of vast majority of the doctors. Okay, I also have a bad handwriting. I have no issues with it. Please use a computer. In today's world, there is no problem. We don't have any concept. If you ask as to which RDBMS, I'll ask the person, which RDBMS are you using? Then they will think either is some medicine or some patient's name which he or she is not aware of. So this whole concept of database, this whole concept of 24/7 availability, why the patient records are not available on the server for me? I'd just like to know what is the problem. Today everything is there, fun and frolic, everything is there. What you don't want is there, what you want is not there. Anyway, so this is where we are. Protecting legal rights. See what has happened over the years. We had complete faith in the medical fraternity in the same way as supposedly the people had complete faith in their kings and queens and whatever. But over a period of time, that very divine relationship, it got snipped. I don't know whether it was the fault of the patient or the citizen or whosoever of the fiefdom. But as it stands today, it is snipped. It is left to you to get that umbilical cord back, or you carry on with a fetus which is not connected to the mother. And medical records are your biggest savior. Today you think, and one more very bad habit is, some junior is there, you write. He writes and you prescribe. Either you decide the quality of cases which the junior will handle and you will supervise, or you make it known to the people that your whole clerical work, and supposedly, if it is not your clerical work, your diagnosis is being done by a junior staff. I am not ready to pay to a doctor who gets everything done by his junior staff. But I don't have a choice. So, what to do? Is between the, devil and the deep sea or whatever we call it. Only your records will save you. And by records today, the world understands only one thing. Whatever goes into your database during your normal course of functioning, because you can create anything anytime, but the date and time stamp given by the doctor in that OT at that point in time for that penicillin injection, a 347 to Nurse Anita, that will never fail you. So that is the strength of a digital system. That is the strength of a system which generally cannot be altered. Let me make it very, very clear. We might be talking about ethics. But if you are able to maintain quality standards, if you are able to maintain a neat documentation, do we need any more ethics?